Should you drive for Uber Pet? Is it worth it? Let's look at the details. What's kind of weird is Uber Pet came out a while ago, but this just popped up on my Uber driver app, and you can see this. You can earn an additional $3 to $4 on every pet-friendly trip on top of UberX fares. So keep that in mind. This is not $3 to $4 every hour, like say if you're doing a long ride, not $3 to $4 extra per mile, not per minute, basically flat $3 to $4 extra. And here's how you opt in. Make sure you have the latest app downloaded, and then you sign up if you click there, and then they can add it onto your app. Here's the thing. Prep for your car for company. All right. Nice pun. Okay. As you can see here, cleaning fees paid by the rider do not, and this is big, do not cover minor incidents related to pet hair, animal odor, or typical wear and tear issues. It is recommended that if you have a towel on board, that you do have a towel on board if you choose to accept pet-friendly trips to help protect the seats in your vehicle. We also have communicated this to riders who are bringing their pet on board, meaning they do tell the pet owners, hey, if you have a towel with you, or if you can, bring a towel with you. I'm going to be honest, as you can imagine, if you do plan to drive for Uber Pet, don't expect them to have a towel on them. Just do it yourself. Better safe than sorry. One last side note I do want to say, and they have this down here, that service animals are separate from pet-friendly rides. As you know, service animals are in a different category, and it says here, but please note that riders with service animals are not required to choose pet-friendly rides. And I'm just going to be honest, with all that being said, I do not think this is worth it for a few different reasons I'm going to mention on this video. And I want to say this, that on one end, I think a lot of times Uber comes up with an idea, and I'm a huge fan of it. There's been a lot of ideas that Uber has come up with that I'm like, dang, it's actually pretty smart, you know? On the other end, sometimes I'm like, was this necessary? Why'd you do this? This might fall more in that category. In some ways, I do kind of get it. There are a lot of people, like say, who don't have service animals that do want to travel with their dog, with their cat, with their whatever animal they have. I think typically a dog, I'd say for most people, and that's kind of what you would expect. Here's a couple issues I have with this. One, I feel like for $3 or $4 extra, it's not that much more worth it to me. That the hassle and all this kind of stuff, not that worth it. Now, here's the way it works, and things get, we could be splitting hairs, I guess pun intended, dog hairs, if I'd word it like that, where, as I said here, minor stuff is actually covered under Uber Pet, meaning if there's a bunch of dog hair everywhere, if there's an odd odor, unfortunately, that is covered, meaning you can't get any extra money past the extra $3 or $4 that you get from doing Uber Pet. On the other end, let's say, and I think this is the biggest concern for a lot of people, the dog goes to the bathroom, the dog has an accident. Yes, you will get, let's say, and you can apply for, let's say, a cleaning fee or something like that, kind of in a similar way, someone let's say, pukes in your car, for example. So yes, there are some, backup options you have if something goes wrong when it comes to the ride, when it comes to having a pet in your car. I think my issue with this is, one, I feel like, it depends upon the dog, and I feel like I said, I think a dog is the most common animal you can have in a ride share. I feel like when it comes to a dog, you never know. A dog has an accident, and there goes your whole day. Same exact thing as when it comes to someone potentially puking in your car from drinking too much, or maybe they're sick or whatever, right? But someone puking in your car. The second big thing that I have is, and I think this is where it gets kind of tricky, is the whole concept of Uber Pet and then regular Uber. Now, let's say this. Let's say Uber Pet was so big, and it was like the big thing. Uber Pet was like wicked popular, as we'd say in Boston. Well, I'd feel different, because I'm like, you know what? You could do Uber Pet Ride, then Uber Pet Ride, then Uber Pet Ride. Similar to how a lot of drivers, like say you have a big van, will just do only Uber XL, because they know they're going to make way more money from those rides. The issue I have is actually not necessarily just doing Uber Pet rides, which actually in a perfect world would make sense. It's the back and forth. Because imagine you do an Uber Pet ride, and this is probably what would happen. You do an Uber Pet ride. Let's say some dog hair gets everywhere. No big deal, right? Not the end of the world. You then drop the person off. Then what do? You accept an Uber X ride or a normal Uber ride. Then you have to drive, pull over, get out of your car, maybe like sweep all the dog hair out, grab the towel, put it in the trunk, then get back in your car, and then you drive. And then let's say a couple rides later, you have an Uber Pet ride. Then you have to pull over again, put that towel down again, right? And do this whole kind of process. Because I will say this, if someone's getting into that Uber, I don't think they should sit on that towel, right? If it's all Uber Pet, I feel like it's a little different. But if you have to go back and forth, I feel like for a normal Uber ride, that towel shouldn't be put down. So that's the first thing I'm going to say, is that the whole back and forth might just become annoying. Is it worth an extra $3 or $4? I don't know. I hate to say it. I don't really think so. The second thing is, you never know. Like say a dog potentially scratches your seat. You don't notice it until later. Or like say they just kind of mess with your car. I mean, obviously, there are coverages under Uber if you say, hey, my dog or this person's dog scratched my seat. Here's a picture of it. I want to get compensation. But as we all know, sometimes Uber can side with the rider more than the driver. Who knows if let's say Uber tries to screw you over or not give you the money that you deserve. That could be a whole tricky thing, especially if you're renting a car. God forbid a dog does something to that car. Like say they bite something, they eat something. You never know. So I think there's a lot of potential liability is another thing I'm going to say. And then lastly, and this is the big one for me, is that allergies. I think that's actually the biggest thing for me. And I know some people who are super allergic to dogs or cats, for example. Other people are not. And I feel like as a driver, it's one of those situations that in some sense, even if it's not your fault, it becomes your fault. Because let's say, again, the example I used, you drive for Uber Pet. You make an extra $3 or $4. But then after you drop them off, you have to pull over, take that towel or that blanket or whatever you're using, put it in your trunk. You're like, all right, good. Your back seat looks pretty spotless. Not too much hair or any kind of like pet stuff laying around, so to speak. You then go pick somebody up. They get in your back seat. And they start coughing. They're like, oh, I don't feel good. Whoa. They start sneezing. They start just like doing that kind of thing. And they're acting a bit weird. And then you find out during the ride that they have allergies. And as you can imagine, some people are pretty severely allergic to dogs and cats. Do I think, it's a life-threatening thing? I'm not a doctor. I'm not pretending to be one, and I never pretend to be one in any of my videos ever. But, let's say they're severely allergic and they start having like a reaction that could cause some issues. Or let's say they're not that severely allergic, but they're just kind of sniffling and sneezing and coughing, and they're just having like a minor reaction. And then you say, oh yeah, sorry, we had a dog in here earlier. Again, even though it's not your fault per se, I could see some passengers or a good amount being like, oh, well, WTF, like, dude, and next thing you know, you're getting a 1-star rating because you had that Uber Pet. And do I think that the extra $3 or $4 you're going to make from Uber Pet is worth the hassle of replacing the towel back and forth, potentially dealing with someone having allergies, potentially dealing with a dog ripping up your seat or kind of basically making some permanent mark? I don't think so. And I will say this, if let's say Uber Pet was like $3 to $4 per mile extra, or let's say it was $3 to $4 per minute extra, or something where the longer the ride, the longer the distance, time, distance, whatever, the more money you make, like it's almost like that kind of formula, I'd maybe feel different. I'm like, okay, let's say I'm doing this would be kind of ridiculous, but let's say I'm doing a 10-minute ride, and let's say they have to spend an extra $20 to have a dog in my car. I might feel a little different. Like, let's say it's like, to make numbers more realistic, let's say the ride on UberX is normally $20, but it's $40 and it's a 10-minute ride, and they charge you an extra $2 per minute when it comes to this ride. I'd feel a little different because I'm like, okay, the longer the dog's in my car, the more hair that's going to be there, the more, the higher the chance of them potentially going to the bathroom, the higher the chance of them, let's say, digging up my seat. Basically, the longer they're in there, the bigger the risk becomes for me. So in that case, I feel like it would make sense. But the fact that they're doing almost like a flat fare, that's like, if let's say I'm doing a 5-minute ride down the road, or like say a 50-minute ride or an hour-long ride, I only make an extra $3 or $4 in both cases, not worth it.